Broadcasting weekly on podcast platforms and Alexa, the UK's premier grassroots pro-European radio show. This is 16 Million Rising. March on.
There we go. I think so. You're coming across nice and clear. So, right. Are we ready then?
Yeah, awesome, mate.
Good? Fantastic. So I'm here with bassist Paul Gray. He's in the new band, I think they're a new band, Wingmen. For those of you who aren't familiar with your work, Paul, tell us a little bit about what you've been up to musically prior to the formation of Wingmen.
Yeah, I'll try and keep it brief.
Well, don't worry.
Well, I'm also the bass player for the Damned. That's my kind of day job band. I've been in and out of them 3 times now. I came back in 2017 for the called Evil Spirits, and I was in them from 80 to 83, and then again back in the I think late 80s and through the 90s for a bunch of reunion stuff. Before that, I was in a band called Eddie and the Hot Rods for 5 years.
Yeah.
Joined them when I was about just before I was 16 years old, I think. Spent 5 years with UFO and spent about 15 years also working for the Musicians Union. When my hearing issues got so bad, I had to do something away from all the racket of music. But happily, I've managed to find my way back in now. So I've been pretty busy.
You have indeed. Is that what's that T-shirt you're wearing there?
Oh, our tour manager, the Damned's tour manager, has got a T-shirt thing called La Rocca. La Rocca was a shop back in the 70s that sold lots of really kind of cool gear. I think they had one in London, one in New York. And he's reissued the T-shirts. I don't even know what it is. Oh, it says La Rocca London. There you go.
Fantastic. Well, tell us about Wingmen. First of all, who are your fellow, I suppose, Wingmen in the band with you?
Yeah, well, it's Marty Parrott, who's the drummer for another band I've got with Captain Sensible, Damned guitarist called Sensible Grey Cells, and a band called Johnny Moped. There's Lee Hegarty from Ruts DC, and there's Baz Bourne, who's the singer and guitarist from the Stranglers.
Right. So the 4 of you have come together as Wingmen. How did that come about? I mean, was it something that one of you just sort of had a eureka moment in the bath and said, you know what we should do? Or was it?
It was entirely unexpected.
Really?
Unexpected. Yeah. Lockdown. We just auditioned a replacement drummer for the Damned just before, literally the day before everything locked down. So all our touring plans were put on hold, along with every other musicians. And do you know what? The dates are very hazy because it was a pretty bleak period for everybody. But
yeah.
I think after 6-7 months, we realised that this was going to be no short blip. You know, the ramifications of COVID were going to hit us long and hard for quite a long time. So, you know, musicians, if you're not touring, really, you're not making any money. It's very difficult to make money from sales these days, from recordings for all the obvious reasons. So I'm a self-employed musician. You know, I'm not in any salaries. If I'm not touring, I'm not working.
Yeah.
So things got a bit bleak. And Marty, the Grey Cells drummer, phoned me up. He said, I'm really bored, really frustrated. I said, so am I. He said, well, do you fancy getting another band together just to knock some new ideas about, just for something to do to stop us all going stir crazy and climbing walls? He said, who else would you like to work with? And Lee Hegarty. I love the Ruts. I love Ruts DC ever since they first toured supporting the Damned in 1980. Very first tour I did. In fact, the first show I did with the Damned, I think, was here in Newcastle, where we are tonight, with the Ruts DC supporting.
I was going to ask you, where do we find you? So you're in Newcastle, are you? Just up the road from me. I'm in Durham.
Yeah, we're in the heady confines of the Travelodge in Newcastle.
And are you performing
and I can
tonight?
actually look out my window and see the time. It's normally a parking lot or air conditioning units, but it's
So hang on.
I'd like to say it's a glamorous view. It's not quite glamorous, but it's not bad.
So you're gigging tonight, Paul?
Yeah, we're at the Clooney's tonight.
Oh, you're at Clooney's. Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Under what guise? As which band?
Wingmen.
Oh, brilliant. Well, we'll get to that in a moment. So the four of you got together. It came together kind of organically, part of out of lockdown.
Well, I said to Marty, love to work with Lee Haggerty. You know, we got the same, come from the same place, glam rock, The Who, and all of that. I said, I'm not sure about singing. So Marty's a bit of a kind of an operator. Oh, mate, leave it with me. The next day he called back. He said, never guess what, Paul. He said, we got a band. Guess who the singer is? I said, well, tell me. He said, Baz Warner at the Stranglers. So I thought, well, that's a bit unexpected.
Yeah, absolutely.
And literally the next day we started swapping song ideas. You know, some we'd written independently, already fully formed, other were just ideas. And because we couldn't meet up, because everything was shut down, you know, we had Zoom meetings with foaming pints of ale on our computers, swapped ideas for songs. And the great thing about it was none of us knew what was going to come back from the next person.
Yeah.
So it was an entirely organic and unexpected treat to hear what the others put to it. And
so
after some months of this, we thought, well, this is a bit good just to do for a laugh. Maybe we could release it, and that's how it all happened.
Right. So tell me about the album then that you've put together. How many tracks are there, and what are the themes of the songs on the album?
We recorded 13 tracks altogether. There's 10 on the album. The others will be out in due course. It's I think you have to listen. There's a lot of quite a lot of politics couched in a kind of dry acerbic humour. You know, none of us like ranty politics for the sake of it, all that shouty stuff.
Yeah.
There's smarter ways to get your message across. So we literally wrote about the things that bugged us.
Right.
And that encompassed, you know, some are in kind of, you know, wry, tongue-in-cheek, humorous ways. Others were rather more pointed. So it goes from the fact that, you know, us Brits, we love to moan about everything. You know, we moan if it's hot, we moan if it's cold, we moan if it's sunny, if it's raining.
We do.
Moan if we've got, there isn't a bit of pineapple on our pizza. So Baz wrote a fantastic song called Brits, which kind of encompasses that. There's it goes right across the board. The couple that were especially kind of in my head were, my partner works for the NHS, not in any frontline capacity.
Yeah.
And I had throat cancer 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And the NHS was just absolutely extraordinary, fantastic. So, you know, like many of us, you know, I've been dismayed at the creeping privatisation of the NHS, and the lies that we've all been fed about that, and the fact that we actually have to pay for so much already now. You know, and all the contracts given out to their mates and the PPI, you know, but we could have just to talk about a whole day on that. So there's something I would if I could. And we tour America a lot with the Damned, and I've had quite a lot of conversations with friends of mine over there about their healthcare system. And you know, we need to keep the NHS. You know, it's such an important part of our country, and still the envy of most countries. But it may not be that way for much longer. So that was a particularly pointed song lyrically that kind of wrote itself. And the other one, which is why we're here today, is about the utter folly of Brexit, and, you know, all the incredible rhetoric that spewed out from certain people's gobs. I mean, that's quite an acerbic. But I don't mention it directly. It's not mentioned directly. But I think anybody listens to the first couple of couplets has got a pretty good idea who it's about.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking about the track "Oh What a Carry On," which
we might be, yeah.
We might be. We played that on the show a couple of weeks ago, and actually, the reason I played it is because somebody drew my attention to your tour, your album that's coming out, and said, "I take it you'll be playing this track by these guys." And to my great shame, I wasn't familiar with what you were doing at the moment. Checked it all out, listened to the album, and I was like, fantastic. Because one of the things that's really amazed me, and I still find this every week putting the show together, is the number of bands that were perhaps not even together and formed before Brexit, who've been motivated and energized by this, and are producing some incredible material at the moment. I mean, everyone from the Asian Dub Foundation to Badly Drawn Boy. There's some amazing stuff out there. So this album that you're currently touring, I suppose, is not specifically about Brexit. It's about, like you say, the things that bug you, the NHS, Brexit. What other things are currently bugging you that have made it to the final cut?
Well, those are the two main ones. I mean, I think that's quite enough to keep us occupied. I'm not a great one for conspiracy theories. They drive me absolutely bonkers. I think there's more pressing things to worry about. All the sort of the climate change denier stuff, and it just confuses and vexes me. I just don't understand how people think that it's not a serious problem. So I think there's much more. I don't want to go into massive details, but you just look around the country that we're in today. Just the three things that we've just touched upon, all the cronyism, the NHS problems, the Brexit problems that especially, musicians have got. Well, everybody's got, really. I think everybody's just starting to realise now. Climate change, all these things are, we've got a lot to worry about, The last time I kind of really remember worrying was in the Cold War, when our parents were terrified that we were all going to get nuked,
Goodness me. So it's interesting you equate it with that period in history. I was just thinking, returning to Brexit again, I mean, have you as a musician and other members of the band, or any of your colleagues, in fact, suffered or experienced any of the direct impacts from Brexit? I was speaking to Howard Goodall, composer, recently, David Knopfler as well, formerly of Dire Straits, and they were explaining to me for the show a number of things that particularly have bugged them and they've experienced. But what's your experience so far been? Has it impacted your touring or any other aspect of your work?
We had an email, we the Jams had an email from our management about a year ago, in essence saying, because of the ramifications of Brexit, touring the EU on a one-off basis, for example, flying out to do one-off shows or driving to one-off shows, was no longer feasible. And we're about, as soon as I finish the Wingmen run, we've got another 5 days to go. We're heading out to Europe with the Damned. Our first show is on, I think, the 3rd of April in Paris, and we're doing Paris, Belgium, Holland, Germany, Budapest, and Italy. And happily, I don't have to deal with any of that crap anymore, because the management, the tour managers deal with all that. But the implications now have gone back to where we were when I first started touring in the mid-70s with the Hot Rods, late 70s. So we now need a work visa for every country that we go to, at great expense. It's not just the band, it's all our crew, supporting crew as well. And of course, as I'm sure you'll know, we're back to the fantastically great old days of having a carnet. In fact, I had an email from our tour manager a few days ago, I've got to address, where we have to list every single piece of equipment that we're taking out, right down to the last lead. And if they want to, and I do remember back in the day, Switzerland was particularly bad at this, they can stop you at the border and they can have every bloody bit of equipment out of your lorry, truck, bus, whatever you've got, and they'll go through it. And if it's not itemised on the carnet, if there's one bit missing or one extra bit, where did this come from? It's It's expensive, hugely expensive.
Yeah.
Not just the cost of carne, but cost of people to collate all this and put it all together. So there's lots of extra time and wages got to be spent on that. You've got to build in extra time, a lot of extra time for travel between countries. We travel overnight on a tour bus, so we normally leave at 2 a.m. in the morning after show. We got some long drives on this, maybe 12-hour drives. So if you're going through 2 or 3 borders from one country to another, you could seriously get stopped 2 or 3 times. It's an utter beep, beep, beep show.
Yeah, no, you speak your mind, Paul. Speak your mind.
It's a shit show, isn't it?
I know, and would I be right in thinking that? I mean, you're working with established bands who've got pedigree and experience and have already built up their following. Would I be right in thinking then that if you are now, a young musician who's just formed a band or just trying to get your career started, you might be put off touring Europe altogether because of those hurdles of time, form filling, expense that you've got to jump through?
You couldn't. I don't think you could afford to.
Oh,
honestly, I mean, my heart goes out to any new bands, young bands, or bands that aren't on Ireland. It's difficult enough for us. I mean, to be told by our management touring the EU on one is no longer feasible because of the costs. And as you know, unfortunately, ticket prices aren't, well, fortunately for the punters, but unfortunately for the bands, ticket prices aren't really rising in line with inflation. So touring in general is much more expensive. Fuel is obviously much more expensive. That's got a massive impact upon us touring. Hotels have gone up. So when you've got all these added layers of bureaucracy and time wasting, for what benefit? Absolutely none whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's incredibly depressing. But last year, when I was working for the MU 2016, 2017, we started, and as you probably know, the MU are doing as much work as possible lobbying Parliament to try and get free transit through Europe for musicians. They keep saying all this bollocks like, oh, our door's open, but nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. It's just stalled. So, and I think another implication is that now VAT has to be paid on merchandise before it's sold. I think so. Okay. There's an additional upfront cost for that. I'm not entirely sure. I'm trying to think back 5 years. But I know
Paul, an added problem into all this, of course, is that back when they were negotiating the withdrawal agreement, I believe I'm right in saying that the UK rejected an offer of visa-free travel both ways for musicians. It could have been so much simpler, but we rejected it on the basis of, well, we don't want all these people coming into the country. Of course, they're not coming here to stay permanently. They're coming to tour. The UK government completely missed that whole aspect of it and just said, no, they closed the portcullis to it. We really have shot ourselves in the foot with this one big time, haven't we?
Coming over here, drinking our beer, standing on our stages.
Yeah.
God, can't have that.
Goodness me.
It's a dual thing. It's much more difficult for, all the brilliant artists and musicians of every genre that come to Britain.
Sure.
And the same, I mean, God knows what it's like for orchestras now. I mean, for orchestras traveling with 60-piece orchestra, how's that going to work?
Goodness me.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah, well, okay. Let's get back to something slightly more positive. You're currently touring the album with Wingmen, and you are in Newcastle tonight. As we're recording this interview, it's the 24th of January. It's a Tuesday night. You're going to be performing at Clooney's in Newcastle. What upcoming dates are there left on your tour of this album, and when's it released?
We could only get 9 days. The whole tour, this whole thing's been really unexpected, Ben. We didn't expect it to be received quite as well as it has. So the tour was put in at the very last moment before we all get busy with our parent band. So we've got 5 left. We're in Leeds tomorrow. We're at the O2 in Liverpool the day after. No, Birmingham. Then we've got Liverpool. And then we've got Brighton on the 29th, which is the last date. Brilliant. So we've got 5 dates left there. The album's out on the 27th. the vinyl's been held up for everybody because of Ukraine, because you need oil to press vinyl, so everything's been pushed back there. CD's out though; it's on all the usual Amazon, iTunes, all that kind of stuff, streaming. Quite a bit of stuff on YouTube. So yeah, but it can be pre-ordered from Cadiz Music. That's our label who put it out.
Do you know the website address for that off by heart?
I think it's cadizmusic.com.
As simple as that. I will double check it for you, but yeah, I think
or just go on just put in Wingmen. I think it's, I can't remember our website address. Probably I think I don't know. Anyway, put in Cadiz, it will come up.
I will figure that out and I'll pop it in at the end. Don't worry about that.
There you go.
So people want to get hold of the album. It's great to hear you're going to be pressing some vinyl. I mean, that's coming back in a big way, isn't it? So there's going to be a vinyl, there's going to be a CD release, but the vinyl's held up, you say. So
I think the first bundle will be coming through pretty soon. We're doing a bit of a special bundle that we're working on. It's going to have a tour diary and loads of other extras with it as well.
Brilliant.
And hopefully we will manage to get out again and keep it going, because it's been a hell of a lot of fun.
I'm not surprised. Listen, Paul, it's been really, really great speaking with you. And all the best with what's left of the tour, the few dates you've got still remaining, and of course, a huge success with the album. I'm thrilled to have discovered it. Before you go, can you introduce a track for us to play on this week's show? We've already played "Oh What a Carry On," and I'm sure it will feature again. But you mentioned earlier another song connected to your feelings regarding the NHS. Which one's that?
Yeah, that's "I Would If I Could." I think the lyrics are pretty self-explanatory when you hear them.
Fantastic. Well, Paul, thank you so much for speaking to us. It's been really, really interesting, really great. And thank you for taking the time out of your schedule. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the tour. And this is, what's the track called again?
"I Would If I Could."
Brilliant. And this is "I Would If I Could." Brilliant.
Thanks a lot, Ben. Cheers.
That is fantastic. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you wanted to say that we haven't been able to sort of touch on?
No, I think we've covered it. Yeah,
I've covered loads there. That's really good. And actually, we've been talking 20 minutes, so that's fantastic.
Cool.
Seriously, listen. Have a really. I wish I could come tonight. It's I'm just not able to. It's a real shame because I know Clooney's. It's fantastic. You have a brilliant time there. There'll be a great crowd. But thank you so much. Really appreciate your time, Paul.
And you, Ben. Thanks very much.
No pleasure. Speak soon.
Ciao, mate.
This is 16 million rising.
God, Brexit's rubbish, isn't it? Good job there's a solution.